There is a place in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean where three of the largest tectonic plates on Earth meet: the Eurasian plate, the North American plate, the African plate. They are all moving in different directions. They have been doing this for millions of years. The ground above them has been erupting, collapsing, and rebuilding for as long as there has been an Atlantic Ocean. In 1957, a volcano opened in the ocean off the coast of Fail Island. It erupted for 13 months. It buried towns, harbors, and farms under 20 meters of ash. 2,000 people lost everything. When the eruption stopped, most of them came back. This is the Azores, 9 islands built by fire, inhabited for 600 years by people who understood exactly what they were living on, and stayed anyway. This is what that choice looks like from the inside. If you drew a straight line from New York to Lisbon, you would pass almost directly over them. 9 islands, spread across 600 kilometers of open ocean. The westernmost, Flores, is closer to Canada than to mainland Portugal. The easternmost, Santa Maria, is closer to Morocco. They are part of Portugal. They are part of Europe. But they exist in a geography that belongs to neither. The Azores sit on the mid-Atlantic ridge, the longest mountain range on Earth. Most of it is underwater. Most of it is invisible. The Azores are the part that broke the surface. There are 246,000 people living on these islands. They live above active volcanoes. They live on top of earthquake fault lines. They live in the path of Atlantic storms that have no land to slow them down for 3,000 kilometers in every direction. This documentary is not about the beauty. It is about the decision to build a life in a place that can, and sometimes does, take it back. The Earth's surface is not one piece. It is a mosaic of tectonic plates, massive slabs of rock, kilometers thick, floating on the semi-liquid mantle below. They move, slowly, a few centimeters per year, but they never stop. Most of the world sits safely in the middle of a single plate. The Azores sit exactly where 3 plates meet. This point, the Azores Triple Junction, is one of the most geologically active spots on the planet's surface. The plates are pulling apart. Magma rises to fill the gap, and when the magma reaches the surface, it erupts. The Azores have experienced over 30 significant volcanic eruptions in recorded history. The most recent occurred on Terceira in 1761, on Fayal in 1672 and 1957, on São Miguel in 1563 and 1630, on Pico, whose volcanic cone rises 2,351 meters, the highest point in Portugal. Eruptions have occurred as recently as 1718, but volcanic eruptions are only part of the geological story. The Azores also sit on a network of fault lines. On January 1st, 1980, a magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck Terceira. It killed 61 people. It left 15,000 homeless. It destroyed or damaged over 3,000 buildings. In a city, Angra do Heroísmo, that had survived intact for 500 years. The rebuilding took years. The UNESCO designation, given in 1983, just 3 years after the earthquake, required that every reconstruction match the original architecture exactly. The city that was destroyed was rebuilt to look as if it had never been touched, because that is what the Azorians do. They rebuild, and they rebuild to look like what was there before, because what was there before was worth keeping. The youngest parts of the Azores are not on any map. In 1957, when the Capelinhos volcano erupted off the coast of Fayal, it was erupting underwater first. Then it broke the surface. Then it merged with the island. In 13 months, it added 2.4 square kilometers of brand new land to Fayal. That land is still there. Black, bare, cooling, no vegetation, no buildings, just new earth, still figuring out what it wants to become. New land, still cooling, on an island where people have been living for 600 years. When Portuguese sailors first arrived at the Azores in the 1430s, the islands were empty. No indigenous population, no ruins, no evidence of prior habitation, just 9 islands of volcanic rock, forest and wind, waiting in the middle of the Atlantic. The Portuguese crown began settling the islands around 1439. They brought settlers from mainland Portugal, from Flanders, modern-day Belgium, attracted by land grants, from the Algarve, from the Alentejo, from Madeira. They brought enslaved people from Africa and from the Canary Islands. They planted wheat. They built churches. They called the islands the Azores, from the Portuguese word for goshawk, a bird of prey that was abundant when they arrived. Within decades, the Azores had become something no one had planned, the most important stopping point in the entire Atlantic. Every ship leaving Europe for the Americas passed near the Azores. Every ship returning loaded with gold, spices, or timber stopped here, for fresh water, for food, for repairs, for navigation checks. Christopher Columbus stopped in the Azores on his return from America in 1493. He anchored at Santa Maria, the southernmost island, and waited out a storm that nearly sank his fleet. The Spanish Armada provisioned in the Azores, the Portuguese India fleets provisioned in the Azores. Every treasure ship crossing the Atlantic provisioned in the Azores. Angra do Heroísmo on Terceira became one of the wealthiest ports in the world. The gold of Brazil passed through its harbor. The spices of India passed through its harbor. The Portuguese Empire ran through this small volcanic island in the middle of the Atlantic. The city built to manage that wealth still stands today, virtually unchanged since the 17th century. Churches, palaces, fortifications, cobblestone streets, UNESCO World Heritage since 1983. Because the city was simply too complete to improve upon. And then, the empires moved on. Steamships replaced sailing ships, and steamships didn't need to stop. The Atlantic telegraph cable was laid in 1858. The harbor, that had been the heartbeat of the Atlantic world, went quiet. Empires are not permanent. The islands are. On September 27, 1957, fishermen off the coast of Fayal Island noticed the ocean was boiling. The next day, a column of steam and ash rose from the water. A new volcano was erupting underwater, 1 kilometer from shore. Within weeks, it had broken the surface. Within months, it had merged with the island, and it kept going. For 13 months, the Capelinhos volcano erupted. The ashfall buried the western parishes of Fayal. Houses disappeared under meters of grey powder. Wells were contaminated. Fields became desert. The lighthouse, built in 1903 to guide ships past this exact coastline, was buried to its second story. 2,000 people from the affected parishes lost everything. The Portuguese government negotiated emergency immigration status with the United States. The Azorean Refugee Act of 1958 allowed 1,500 Azorean families to emigrate to America outside the normal immigration quota. They left for Massachusetts, California, Rhode Island. They left with what they could carry. When the eruption stopped in October 1958, many of the people who had left came back. Not all, but many. They came back to find their farms under 10 meters of ash, their harbors filled with new volcanic rock, their lighthouse buried. They rebuilt. Today, the Capelinos ash field is a protected geologic monument. The buried lighthouse is a museum. And the families whose farms were destroyed, their grandchildren are farming the same land. The soil enriched by 500 years of volcanic ash. The most fertile farmland in Portugal, built by the same eruption that tried to end them. The 9 Azorean Islands are 9 different answers to the same question. What does it mean to build a life this far from everything? São Miguel, the largest island, has 130,000 residents. It has a university, an international airport, and a capital city with 70,000 people. It has the Sete Cidades crater, 2 lakes of different colors sitting inside the same volcanic caldera, green on one side, blue on the other. The same rain fills both lakes. The same sky is reflected in them. The colors are different because of the angle of light and the depth of the water. The Azoreans have a legend for why. A princess with green eyes fell in love with a shepherd with blue eyes. They were separated by royal decree. Their tears filled the caldera. 2 lakes, 2 colors, 1 grief. Flores, the westernmost island, has 3,800 residents. No traffic lights, no fast food chains, no cinema. It has waterfalls that fall directly into the ocean. It has the bluest hydrangeas in the world. And it has a ferry that comes twice a week. Weather permitting, between São Miguel and Flores, between 130,000 and 3,800, between airport and ferry, lies the full spectrum of Azorean life. The Azoreans have been leaving since the 1957 eruption gave them a legal reason too. Before that, they left anyway. Drought in the 1870s pushed thousands to Hawaii. The sugar plantations needed workers. Economic depression in the early 20th century pushed thousands to the American mainland. Today, the Azorean diaspora worldwide numbers over 1.5 million people. The islands themselves hold 246,000. The people who left outnumber the people who stayed by more than 6 to 1. The people who stayed are not the ones who couldn't leave. Most had the same options as those who emigrated. They chose differently. They chose the dairy farms on Terceira that produced the milk for most of Portugal. They chose the vineyards on Pico, vines grown in black volcanic rock, protected from the Atlantic wind by hand-built stone walls, a UNESCO World Heritage landscape since 2004. They chose the whale-watching industry that replaced whale hunting. The same vigias, the same cliff-top lookouts that whalers used for centuries, now used to guide tourists to the same sperm whales their grandparents hunted. The last whale hunt in the Azores was in 1987. The industry switched to observation the same year. The same knowledge. The same towers, the same ocean, a different relationship with what lives in it. Living on the Azores means understanding that the weather decides. Not you, not the airline schedule, not the ferry company, the weather. In winter, the islands can be cut off for days, flights cancelled, ferries grounded. The inter-island connections that make the archipelago function as one place can disappear entirely for a week. For residents, this is not a crisis. It is a season, a part of the calendar as predictable as harvest. You stock up in October. You wait in January. You watch the weather change in March. And then the spring comes, and the islands turn green so quickly it seems impossible. But the deeper cost is not the weather. The deeper cost is the uncertainty. Every resident of the Azores lives with a knowledge that mainland Europeans do not carry. The knowledge that the ground is not permanent, that a 7.2 earthquake can arrive on a Tuesday morning, that a submarine volcano can begin erupting offshore on a Wednesday afternoon, that the house your grandfather built, that survived 2 generations, can be gone in a night. The Azores have earthquake early warning systems on every major island. They have volcanic monitoring stations that watch for ground deformation. They have evacuation drills. The children learn them in school, not as an emergency, as a fact of life. This is what separates the Azoreans from every other European population. They live in a state of readiness that other Europeans will never understand. Not fear, readiness. The way a sailor is ready for the weather, aware, prepared, unafraid. The Azorean word for this attitude has no direct translation. Locals simply call it being Azoriano, Azorean, a word that contains in its 9 letters 6 centuries of earthquakes, eruptions, storms, emigrations, returns, and the daily decision to stay. The Azores were built by fire. The fire has never fully stopped. The seismographs record movement every single day. Small movements, the plates adjusting, the magma shifting. The same process that created these islands continuing without pause. In 2022, a new submarine volcanic field was discovered between the islands of Terceira and São Miguel. Underwater eruptions. Invisible from the surface. New islands forming. Maybe in 1,000 years, or 10,000, or next week. The Azores are not finished being made. The people who live on these islands know something that is difficult to explain to someone who has never lived on an island. They know that the world is larger than it looks from the mainland. That distance is not only kilometers. That isolation is not only the absence of connection. It is also, when you choose it, the deepest possible form of presence. You are here, completely here, because there is nowhere else to be. The Azores are 9 islands, total land area, 2,322 square kilometers. Population, 246,000. Founded, 1439. Still here, today. Built on 3 tectonic plates that have never agreed on a direction. Erupted upon, flooded, shaken, buried, evacuated, and rebuilt every single time. The difference between a prison and a home is not the walls. It is not the distance from the mainland. It is not the flight time or the ferry schedule. It is not whether the ground shakes. It is what you decide to love inside them. The Azores are still there. The seismographs are still recording. The lighthouse at Capelinos is still half buried in ash. And the cozido is still cooking underground in Furnace, the same as it was the day Columbus anchored at Santa Maria and looked at these islands and decided to rest. Tell me something in the comments. If you could live on one of these 9 islands for 1 full year, no guaranteed exit date, no fast internet, no easy flight home, which island would you choose? São Miguel, the largest, the most connected. Flores, the smallest, the most remote. Pico, the volcano you would be living on top of. Because everyone I have ever asked that question takes longer to answer than they expect. And the island they choose says everything about them. If this documentary made you think, subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we go to the places the world forgot, and we stay long enough to understand them. For our next video, let me know in the comments if you would like us to visit the vertical cliffs of Madeira, the dramatic island where Cristiano Ronaldo was born. See you there.